What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Living North Phoenix podcast. I'm Blair Ballin with Living North Phoenix and excited to continue our Fitness February podcast edition, which is new to the Living North Phoenix format for our podcast. Last edition, if you haven't heard it already or watched it, I suggest you do. It was with Yoga Amy. And before we begin with today's awesome episode, want to give a couple shout outs before I forget to Aaron, Ruby, and Suri. They were anxious to hear their names, so there they go. But back to our podcast. So a couple things. If you're not already registered for next week's CPA class, please do so. Jonathan Bengal is going to be there. He's awesome. And then I'm sure you've seen posts, and if you haven't, Valley Palooza is coming up on April 19th. We're still looking for vendors and sponsors. For those that are already with us, thank you so much. We're grateful for you. And obviously, if you're looking to attend, please do so. There's no admission this year. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ashley Beaman to our podcast today. Ashley, thanks for doing this with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you were when I made a post in the group about looking for fitness related people, you were heavily tagged in the group as far as someone that I should have on and talk to. So let everyone know a little bit about your background and what you do and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. So I am an online fitness and nutrition coach. I've actually been in the wellness space for quite some time. I was back in 2011 is kind of when I fully jumped in. But at that time, I didn't have my own thing under control, my own journey under control. I was kind of like the blind leading the blind. And I spent over a decade yo-yo dieting. I went down some dark paths with that, with some disordered eating. I even got addicted to Adderall. I'm almost about 9 years clean now from that. But through that process, I kind of felt like I needed to step away and kind of have a healing journey of my own. So I stopped helping women with weight loss and health and fitness, stepped away, became a life coach, started helping people with content creation because that's something that I've done for a really long time. But I just kept getting pulled back. Every time I would work with a life coaching client or even a content client, it would just come back to healthy habits. It would come back to, okay, if we can get these habits laid out, then their content creation was better or things in their life started to be better. And I myself ended up going on a journey where I lost 60 pounds. I've now kept it off for 5 years and compete in bodybuilding competitions. So, of course, as that process happened, everybody was asking me what I was doing. And I kind of went from the girl that yo-yo dieted to the girl that actually was able to lose the weight and keep it off. And I knew I had to help women with that. So that's what I do now.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on being clean for that long and being where you're at now.
Thank you.
Th This might be a little bit unrelated to that, but what specifically with the content creation were you doing?
So I've always grown my business online. Back in 2011, when I started my business, I was a new mom. And so I was spending a ton of time on Facebook. And I remember my family would be like, if Ashley could just make money on Facebook, then she would, be a millionaire. So I've just created content from day one, and it's just something that's really come natural to me. So I've helped all kinds of different people with just getting out of their head and learning to just create the content on the fly, coming up with different ideas and things like that. I haven't done that in the past 3 years because I kind of stepped away when I stepped back into the wellness space. But basically, anybody that had a business that wanted to bring it online or that was online and wasn't getting any traction, I would work with them.
That's awesome. So years ago, I used to be very big into the bodybuilding world from the standpoint of really like trying to study different things. And this was many, many years ago. So just trying to get caught up as an example, like on the Mr. Olympias and following the different participants and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I myself never got to the point of w wanting to compete or anything like that. So from the outsider's perspective, mine, I know a few bodybuilders and have known a few. The dedication that it takes to um, have that as a hobby, career, goal, whatever. Like, t tell us what that's like, and whether it's your daily routine or what's involved with that, because it's I don't mean this in a mean way. It's crazy how much dedication that takes. And again, it's extremely admirable.
Yeah, thank you. So I've always been interested in bodybuilding, and it actually took me about 20 years to commit to the process. After I lost the 60 pounds, I did a round of 75 hard. And through the round of 75 hard, I was like, oh, I think that this, I think I could actually compete. I think I could commit to a prep and I could do it. And so I decided to hire a coach, and I was going to do it as a one-time thing, kind of like a bucket list, check it off and then be done. And I remember the day that I pulled up to the competition, I knew that it wasn't going to be a one-time thing because I was hooked. But like you said, it does require a lot of dedication. However, what I've found is that the process of having to check the boxes and really following through on the task and having to be 100% on during the prep for a competition, it makes the rest of my life so much easier. So I have two boys who one is 14, one is 11, and then my husband and I run a construction business on top of my coaching business. So with all of that combined, I know it might sound crazy to add competing on top of that, but it just keeps me in line. And the process is interesting because I had somebody ask me last week, like, what's the process mentally that you go through when you're prepping for a competition? And it's almost like you go to the deepest, darkest place in your soul through prep, and you really just learn a lot about yourself. You build up um, the confidence and the self-trust and all of that. But honestly, the things that we do are pretty much the things that I have my clients do. I just have to stay on point 100%. So it's following the nutrition, getting my weights in 5 days a week, getting walks in, those sorts of things. The hardest part for me, I would say, really is the posing. It's really, really difficult. And getting used to being on stage was a part of the process. So right now I'm actually in prep for my third competition.
Oh, that's awesome. When does that take place?
Not until August 9th. So we're starting a little early this year so that we can have some flexibility along the way and just be ready for when that comes.
Awesome. So a couple things, and this is, a chance for people to hear from you, not about me, but you brought up something which I completely, and not that you need me to agree with it, but I do, in that last week in a networking meeting that we have for Living North Phoenix, we brought in, ironically, another bodybuilder, and part of the reason, and she's also a dog groom, she runs a dog grooming business. Part of the reason I wanted her to come in was because bodybuilders, to me, like, we can talk to a pro golfer, basketball player, whatever pro sport there is, or amateur, but the dedication it takes, I believe, as a bodybuilder to compete on any level takes so much dedication that I believe that dedication does carry, or can carry over to business and other things, to allow someone to achieve their goals anywhere else, regardless of what that is. And it was true. Like, she was a big hit in the group because she was awesome and has that dedication. So totally get it. You brought up one thing well, you brought up a bunch of stuff, but you brought up one thing I do want to add on to. So you mentioned training, weights, all that stuff, but you talked about walking. For years, I felt like the only cardio that you should do is like treadmill or a bike. It seems like over the past 5-ish years, maybe since COVID, maybe a little before, that walking kind of is back as normal and one of the most effective things you can do. Give us, so I can shut up, give us a little bit more of your thoughts about walking and the power of it.
Yes, I think walking is so powerful, and it's so much more than just, an aspect of cardio. Personally, I have never done any other cardio other than walking when I have prepped for my bodybuilding competitions for a couple reasons. Number one, I'm very muscular built as I am, and I have really great genetics as far as my legs go. So my coach doesn't want my calves growing anymore for the division that I compete in. So no stairs for me or anything like that. However, another part of that is when you add in more intense cardio, especially if you are in like a fat loss phase and you're trying to cut weight, you're going to be hungrier. So we want to, in my opinion, when we're looking at like weight loss or fat loss, we want to look at doing the least amount to see the most results and trying not to put on too many stressors because your body's already going to go through some stressors with that. So walking is a way where you can still get a calorie burn, you can still get the mental aspects of it without raising like, having you be super hungry after being on the Stairmaster for a long time or even running. But there are people out there who like that intense cardio, and if that's something that they like to do and mentally it's great for them, I definitely recommend it. But for most of my clients, they usually are just walking right now.
Awesome. I mean, it's so much simpler. It doesn't require a gym or equipment, or anything like that. So, do you find also that during the process of walking, it allows you to clear your head to get more focused? And is that another reason?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a very early morning person, so I like to get up and go get, that's like one of the first things that I do after I have my coffee, of course. But I love to go walk because it does help me clear my head. I am somebody that does have ADHD, but like you heard at the beginning, I can't take medication because I become very addicted to it. So I have found ways to help myself stay focused. And walking and getting my body moving first thing in the morning really helps to clear my head and get that focus going first thing in the morning, getting the right kind of dopamine rather than scrolling on your phone, even though sometimes that happens.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. So as part of this Fitness February, which just came up because I was trying to come up with a theme, if you're able to give the audience and listeners now maybe some insight for whether it's a home gym routine that's simple to do, nutrition that's easy, not too costly because everything is costing a lot these days, stuff that's just basic to follow, that's sustainable, with as few restrictions on it as possible, with your powerful insight.
Yeah, for sure. So, like we already talked about, walking is something that you could add into your routine. A lot of people have like step trackers and stuff these days. And what I will recommend is let's get your average amount of steps and let's start increasing it, like maybe just by 2,000 steps a day, just simply moving your body a little bit more. Even if you need to break up that walk, like 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there after a meal would be a really great way for you to do that. But you can definitely work out at home. In fact, for my first competition, I just trained at home. I didn't train anywhere else. I'm relatively new to the gym, which surprises a lot of people, but you don't need a lot of equipment, a couple, sets of dumbbells. There are a lot of free workouts online too. I personally don't have anything up there yet. But I know if you go on YouTube, you can find people that have like at home workout programs that you can follow and those sorts of things. But even just getting in like 2 to 3 kind of weighted workouts a week where you're, lifting those weights is going to help. As far as nutrition goes, I am a full believer in balanced moderation, nutrition. Nothing is off limits. Let's like keep the foods in that we love and personally, I have my clients follow counting macros and we go into different ways of doing that. But if you're just looking for a place to start, one thing I would say is instead of focusing on the things that you need to restrict or remove from your diet, let's focus on adding things in. So protein is probably a hot topic right now, but protein is definitely something that is going to help everybody. And I just recommend trying to get between like 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal or snack that you're having. And that's going to help keep you fuller longer. It's going to help you sustain your muscle mass. It's going to help with those cravings. And then another thing that I would add is focusing on getting in fiber. I feel like we don't talk about that enough. But that's another thing that's going to keep you fuller longer, and it's also just going to help your body function properly. So, really looking at nutrition as something that's balanced where you don't have to restrict food. You can still have the things that you like. I find that a lot of times when people eliminate like things that like if you like some Oreos at the end of the day, let's have some Oreos at the end of the day. But when we restrict it, then that's when we go into that like let's eat the whole thing of Oreos, right? So I like to look at it as a balanced approach and looking at adding things in rather than removing things.
That's awesome. That's in my opinion, that's one of the best approaches to have because then if you're just pushing all these restrictions on yourself, you're less likely to do anything. So that's really cool. So as far as you and your fitness coaching, walk us through that. Is it all via Zoom or what does that look like?
Yeah, so everything that I do is online. I don't do any in-person coaching as of right now. I mean, that could maybe change in the future, but with two boys having crazy sports schedules, I don't think so. But basically, I have a private app where I run my one-on-one clients through. So I build out their workouts inside of there, their nutrition. They have direct access to me. And we just work through whatever process it is that they're going through, whether it be fat loss, building muscle, or just really the first couple weeks and months is usually laying the foundation of habits. I think one of my things that I preach a lot is slow weight loss. Because it's sustainable. And I know that it's not as exciting to focus on slow weight loss, but I can tell you if you get off that train of yo-yo dieting, it does become more exciting when you can actually sustain those results. So I have the option of working with me with one-on-one coaching. And then a couple times a year, I will do a 60-day challenge. So this is a lower cost entry for people to get into. I give them a full protocol and then I teach them how to count macros as a group together. And we just kind of walk through those 60 days together. So another thing I believe is education is power as long as you're taking action on it. And so the more that people know, the more that they're able to continue on their journey even after they're done working with me.
Yeah, that's spot on with all of it. I totally agree. And do you work with both men and women?
I mostly work with women. However, I have worked with a few men. Last year, I had a few one-on-one clients that were men in the past.
Okay. And what's the best way to get a hold of you? What's your website? What's all the contact info so people can find you?
So I'm all over on all platforms, Instagram, the Ashley Beaman, Facebook, Ashley Beaman, Snap or TikTok. I'm not on Snapchat. TikTok is Ashley Beaman also. And those are the best ways to get in touch with me and to see my content, to ask any questions that you may have. I also have a podcast called The Ashley Beaman Show where I share a lot of information on there. Just the more that I can get out, the more that I can help people.
Is that easy to find on whatever podcast apps there are?
Yes, all podcast apps. If you just type it, if you just Google the Ashley Beaman Show, it'll pop up.
Okay. And then do you offer, and I'm not saying you should, just wondering, do you offer like a free consultation kind of call or what does that look like?
Yeah, if anybody wants to jump on a call and have questions like about the process of things, I'm more than willing to do that. You just send me a message and we can schedule that.
Okay. Do you have any like concluding tips or stuff that you wanted to share before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I would just say just take it one step at a time. Like I talked about with the slow weight loss, I think that we underestimate the power of building habits and how powerful those can be once they add up. So instead of looking at it as this big thing that you need to tackle, just focus on one thing at a time over a long period of time. And when you look back, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've created all of these habits, and those results will start to come as you do that.
Yeah, so true. I really wish people listening to this, not just on the fitness aspect, understand what and hear what you're saying, because those habits and the simplicity of stuff, So important. So awesome. And anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, that's basically about it. Like you said, everything that I talked about, I would apply to my content creation, clients too. So it is a ripple effect and it does work across all areas of life.
It really does. I mean, on the quote unquote side, I'm also a realtor, and early on in my career, much of my business was no one probably will like hearing this, but a lot of my business was based off of cold calling, and so many of my colleagues wondered how I did what I did, and it was the daily continuous calling, and it's not necessarily that I love doing it. That was the way I needed to do it to get to my goals. But it was that I had to call for whether it's an hour a day, 2 hours, whatever time frame, it doesn't matter. But that continuous habit, and then over time, it becomes a habit that it's just part of the day. So no different than, doing the walking, exercise, whatever that looks like. Those habits are so important. And even, like for me on different aspects, habits of, creating a schedule Sunday night for the week to know what I'm doing, or, then the next night for the next day, et cetera, et cetera. So important. So yeah, I appreciate all that information. And again, I hope people listening, not just on the fitness aspect, understand how important that stuff is.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this. Been very informative for me. I took a bunch of notes and I can't wait for everyone to hear this and watch it. And hopefully a bunch of people connect with you on socials and you get clients and are able to help people, but also that you do, we'll all be cheering you on for your next competition. And hopefully you accomplish everything that you're looking to do there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for being on and have an awesome rest of the day.